Good evening. Welcome back to the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene discussion series. The show where we talk about the laws. We try to give context, explanation, and maybe even some amusing real life anecdotal equations. Being as this is my discussion series, gonna go ahead and give a few minutes, see who pops in to participate in said discussion. I already see my darling Jean, mod extraordinaire and giant promoter, in the chat. Hello, Jean. Welcome. Hello, Cat. Yep, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm kind of excited to come back to this one because not all the laws will apply to everyone. This one is definitely one of mine. So I am kind of looking forward to it because if there's one key to my power, it is the Law 6. Hola, Biju. ¿Cómo estás? We're just having a pre-stream. Sit down and see who pops in. Seeing hello, Val. Good to see you too. Thank you. Thanks for that, because I'm pretty good. Pretty glad to be back. And I'm definitely super happy to continue this series on this specific Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Oh, if that isn't me. Marcy! Hola, Marston, ¿cómo estás? Me gusta pan. I've been working on my Spanish or not. Yep. So this one right here. Hoo-wee. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Oh dear. Yeah. This is no good. Add to the stream. Yeah, probably go that route. Me gusta pan. Yeah, I like bread. Court attention at all costs. What do you guys think that means? To court attention at all costs. Could it be to be an attention whoring YouTuber? Because I got a feeling. But I want to know you guys' thoughts on it before I get too into it. or a hilarious bee. See, that's kind of where I do my best work with courting attention at all costs. Like when I think of that line, I'm just like, well, have you ever seen me in someone else's chat? It's hard to see me in my own chat, but if you've ever seen me in anyone's chat, this is almost like a natural necessity for me, is to be courting the attentions. But anyway, I know some promoters court attention just by being awesome. You are uh, shine in chat most of the time. Oh, Maddie, we're resuming the 48 laws. Law 6, court attention at all costs. If there are no objections from the chat, we've then waited to see who, I mean, yeah, but at what cost? Like, I know there are people like me who have a YouTube channel, and I court some level of attention, and there are people like, say, Mr. Beast, who court attention at all costs. Like, because oh my, what do you spend for the amount of attention you get? Everything. But anyway, no objections. Or we can wait a couple more minutes and see if anyone else gets a late notification and pops in. Oh, but do you? That's an interesting supposition. Do you have to decide what kind of attention you want, though? I mean, some people gain power and notoriety through unwanted attention. Yeah, I mean, unless you have an ends for it, sometimes you have to court. Sometimes you have to court attention that you don't want because it is necessary for something. Mousy, I'm going to say this on behalf of the assholes. Sometimes courting negative attention is exactly what I want. Because I'm an asshole. And sometimes me courting negative attention gets me a lot of positive feedback loop, which that's always interesting to mm, you can attempt to court certain types of attention. You, it's not saying that you don't get to decide. All right, we're at the 10-minute mark, so I'm gonna get into this because I'm dying to get into this. Judgment. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. And I get that. Like, I mean, how can you judge a thing if you're not aware of it? Never let yourself get lost in the crowd, then, or buried in oblivion. Stand out. Be conspicuous at all cost. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. And this does tend to ring true for myself, and it also rings true for several of the people in my closest circles. Speaking of courting attention, good evening. Miss Lady Autumn Sky, and welcome. So that's an interesting judgment, yeah, and it makes perfect sense. Like if you want attention, you have to stand out, be louder than the people around you, be more flamboyant, more showy, more flashy, make a scene. You can do this a variety of different ways. I tend to prefer to lean into being kind of a sarcastic but funny asshole. Like sometimes I'm just mean, but I'm still funny about it. Sometimes I'm just making jokes, but I'm still mean about it. Anywho, part one. Surround your name with the sensational and scandalous. Draw attention to yourself by creating an unforgettable, even controversial image. Court scandal. Do anything to make yourself seem larger than life and shine more brightly than those around you. Make no distinction between kinds of attention. Notoriety of any sort will bring you power. Better to be slandered and attacked than ignored. And oh my, if part of your power is you're not too late. I started in. Oh man. Ouch, you wound me, Matthew. You're not that late, Shy. Good to see you, my dear. Man, you threw me off with that comment, Matt. I had a whole train of thought here. Yeah. Oh, anyway, what I was going to say, yeah. For those courting attention, the absolute biggest weapon you can use against their quest for power is to give them the big old non acknowledgement. And I, for one, being someone who does like the attention, absolutely loathe being ignored. I would rather be slandered and attacked. I would rather people talk shit about me than not even talk about me at all. Because if you're talking about me and you're saying nice things, talking shit, whatever you're doing, you are thinking about me. I am on your mind. I have your attention. Some might say I'm even living rent free inside your head. But if you just ignore me, oh man, that really bums me out. But I'm kind of a paradox because if you don't care, I really don't either. Like, there is enough attention out there that I get more than my fair share. If you don't like me and you want to ignore me, cool. You're probably not important enough for me to like. There are certain people whose attention I just want, and then there's everybody else who's just like, I like your attention, but you can go now. I love the story that they use for the example in this case. Observance of the law. P.T. Barnum, America's premier 19th century showman, started his career as an assistant to the owner of a circus, Aaron Turner. In 1836, the circus stopped in Annapolis, Maryland for a series of performances. On the morning of opening day, Barnum took a stroll through town, wearing a new black suit. People started to follow him. Someone in the gathering crowd shouted out that he was the Reverend Ephraim K. Avery, infamous as a man acquitted of the charge of murder but still believed guilty by most Americans. The angry mob tore off Barnum's suit and was ready to lynch him. Oh man, can I even say that on YouTube? After desperate appeals, Barnum finally convinced them to follow him to the circus where he could verify his identity. There is a fable here, The Wasp and the Prince. I might read that later, but it's kind of not relevant in this moment. Once there, old Turner confirmed that this was all a practical joke. He himself had spread the rumor that Barnum was Avery. The crowd dispersed, but Barnum, who had nearly been killed, was not amused. I would have been pissed. He wanted to know what could have induced his boss to play such a trick. I mean, imagine, like, if your rumor went too well and they didn't listen to him or believe him and they strung him up from a lamppost. Oof! Your assistant. What the hell? Why did he do it? Like, that's a dangerous game to play. My dear Mr. Barnum, Turner replied, it was all for our good. Remember, we need to ensure success. All we need to ensure success is notoriety. And indeed, everyone in town was talking about the joke, and the circus was packed that night and every night it stayed in Annapolis. Barnum had learned a lesson he would never forget. Barnum's first big venture of his own was the American Museum, a collection of curiosities located in New York. One day a beggar approached Barnum in the street. Instead of giving him money, Barnum decided to employ him. Taking him back to the museum, he gave the man 5 bricks and told him to make a slow circuit of several blocks. At certain points, he was to lay down a brick on the sidewalk, always keeping 1 brick in hand. On the return journey, he was to replace each brick on the street with the one he held. Meanwhile, he was to remain serious of countenance and to answer no questions. Once back at the museum, he was to enter, walk around inside, then leave through the back door and make the same bricklaying circuit again. I mean, what year is this? It doesn't say what year, but this is probably early 1900s during that beginning come up with Barnum's first. But I mean, imagine trying to do this little bit today. Uh, on the man's first walk through the streets, several hundred people watched his mysterious movements. By his fourth circuit, onlookers swarmed around him, debating what he was doing. Every time he entered the museum, he was followed by people who bought tickets to keep watching him. Many of them were distracted by the museum's collections and stayed inside. By the end of the first day, the Brickman had drawn over 1,000 people into the museum. Who in the hell is watching this? I'm pretty sure in current year, if somebody were to do this, nobody would notice he might get mugged. I mean, this is New York City after all. A few days later, the police ordered him to cease and desist from his walks. The crowds were blocking traffic. The bricklaying stopped, but thousands of New Yorkers had entered the museum, and many of those had become P.T. Barnum converts. I mean, the goal of the whole shtick, get people curious as to what this dude is doing, and then get them to follow him into his museum. That's brilliant, except who would notice this? Like, it would have to be a very, yeah, you would have to come up with a modern day version, and that concept probably does still work. But it's just a weird, like, how would you even come up with this, Barnum himself? Like, how did he come up with, like, this is what you're gonna do? You're gonna move bricks around the outside, like the perimeter of the perimeter blocks of the. I just, it's just a weird. Yeah, it's a like. I'm sure you probably could come up with a modern variation that would get people's attention. All you have to do is stand out, do something extremely odd, and get people's attention. And the more attention you draw, like moths to the flame, the more attention you will continue to draw. Like sometimes when you get in a certain mood and you get all fired up, you just galvanize a crowd around you and eventually you become the mob. And then you block the streets in New York. Look at that. There you go. I mean, it's all well, the algorithm. You mean the YouTube algorithm? YouTube? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's designed specifically to keep you paying attention so that you don't go off the platform. As long as it's feeding your that dopamine trigger or whatever trigger, like that thing that keeps you paying attention, that what you want to see, you're gonna keep watching. Even when I'm railed at, I get my quota of renown. Pietro Ertino, 1492 to 1556. I have no idea who that is. But I like the quote because, yeah, like even when people are booing and jeering, you're still going to have your people that are like, hell yeah, man. Like, we love the heels. Barnum would put a band of musicians on a balcony overlooking the street beneath a huge banner proclaiming "Free music for the millions." What generosity, New Yorkers thought, and they flocked to hear the free concerts. But Barnum took pains to hire the worst musicians he could find, and soon after the band struck up, people would hurry to buy tickets to the museum where they would be out of earshot of the band's noise and of the booing of the crowd. Now that's genius right there. Like, free music for everybody. And it is the worst thing you've ever heard. And it'll drive you inside the museum, which is where I wanted you in the first place, buying tickets. And it's also doubly awesome because if you get terrible, terrible musicians, you don't have to pay them a lot because their performance doesn't merit a large amount of. So he's basically buying the dirt cheapest musicians to drive you out of the concert because he doesn't want you there enjoying the music. He wants you there enjoying the museum. It's a genius tactic. I totally love it. I don't think that's appropriate, sir, and I don't like your tone. But hey, at least I've got your attention, don't I? Ah, sucker, you fell right for the trap. And now you're here paying attention to me. Just like I planned. Maybe my whole inactivity was just a ruse to get people to pay more attention when I come back. That's funny. I'm curious about the restaurants here with the uncomfortable punishment chairs. Like, they want you to paint. Oh, so they want you to. I well, if they want you to pay and leave, just don't put chairs. But I mean, that's called a takeout joint. Like, no, they want to keep cycling people in, I think that's different. I think that's a different like because the goal with courting attention is to pull people in, not drive people out. The Court Artist. A work that was voluntarily presented to a prince was bound to seem in some way special. The artist himself might also try to attract the attention of the court through his behavior. In Vasari's judgment, Sodoma was well known both for his personal eccentricities and for his reputation as a good painter, because Pope Leo X found pleasure in such strange, harebrained individuals. He made Sodoma a night, causing the artist to go completely out of his mind. Van Mander found it odd that the products of Cornelis Kettle's experiments in mouth and foot painting were bought by notable persons because of their oddity. Yet Kettel was only adding a variation to similar experiments by Titian, Ugo da Carpi, and Palma Giovane, who, according to Bocchini, painted with their fingers because they wished to imitate the method used by the supreme creator. I mean God. I mean God finger painted. Van Mander reports that Gossart, man, these names are getting worse and worse, attracted the attention of Emperor Charles V by wearing a fantastic paper costume. In doing so, he was adopting the tactics used by Dinocrates, who, in order to gain access to Alexander the Great, is said to have appeared disguised as the naked Hercules when the monarch was sitting in judgment. The Court Artist, Martin Warnke, 1993. I that's these little inserts here sometimes. I should probably read the whole thing through because I don't get it. Anywho, back to Barnum because at least his story was making sense. I don't know about these court artists, man. One of the first oddities Barnum toured around the country was Joyce Heth, a woman he claimed was 161 years old, and whom he advertised as a slave who had once been George Washington's nurse. After several months, the crowds began to dwindle, so Barnum sent an anonymous letter to the papers claiming that Heth was a clever fraud. Joyce Heth, he wrote, is not a human being, but an automaton, made up of whalebone, india rubber, and numberless springs. Those who had not bothered to see her before were immediately curious, and those who had already seen her paid to see her again, to find out whether the rumor that she was a robot was true. In 1842, Barnum purchased the carcass of what was purported to be a mermaid. This creature resembled a monkey with the body of a fish, but the head and body were perfectly joined. It was truly a wonder. After some research, Barnum discovered that the creature had been expertly put together in Japan, where the hoax had caused quite a stir. He nevertheless planted articles in newspapers around the country claiming the capture of a mermaid in the Fiji Islands. How many of us are familiar with this story? He also sent the papers woodcut prints of paintings showing mermaid. By the time he showed the specimen in his museum, a national debate had been sparked over the existence of these mythical creatures. A few months before Barnum's campaign, no one had cared or even known about mermaids. Now everyone was talking about them as if they were real. Crowds flocked in record numbers to see the Fiji mermaid and to hear debates on the subject. That little exploit of Barnum's became so damn famous that we still hear about it. Like, I still hear about it today. When was the 48 Laws written, Juju? I don't know off the top of my head. I know it's old. I can probably Google that. You probably could have Googled that. Originally published in 1998, for the record. So it's not older than me. 1998, yes, that is correct. You guys totally on about restaurants and flat booties and hard chairs. You guys are courting my attention. I just want to smack you upside the head. I mean, I'm just kidding. That's a joke, obviously. I just think this one, like, when I first read through this, which was before like, right around the time I ended off on the series, I read through this when I was thinking about resuming it. And I read this story and I was like, oh, good old Barnum with Barnum and Bailey is where the Fiji mermaid story came from. How do places that try to get you to leave, how is that courting your attention? I mean, granted, they have to have some sort of something that draws you in, and then something that drives you out, but something that keeps you coming back. Otherwise, that model is like, I mean, you didn't think this shit through. Like, they want you to pay and leave, but if your experience is awful, then you ain't gonna want to come back. Well, it's a discussion. It's not a like, how can it be a distraction? I'm just trying to like figure out like the. Well, that's the point. I'm courting your attention. If I don't give you my attention, how can I court yours? I just don't get the like how the restaurant relevancy. I mean, obviously the food must be good enough. This is all part of the laws of power because for a business to get your business consistently, they have to court your attention like a restaurant. And I would imagine that like a restaurant with bad, uncomfortable ambiance better have some damn good food or some like some sort of amazing something. Otherwise, it's just like, yeah, to hell with going to that joint. No, what you did was tangent on off. Well, Charlemagne started the whole restaurant thing, and I'm still trying to figure out like how to make that concept relevant to this particular law of power. And while I contemplate on this a little further, I'm going to go ahead and pause for cheers. I mean, I know my timing's off, but I was clearly in the middle of the business. So, cheers, y'all. Well, I mean, you drew attention from the topic at hand, but what do you think about the Fiji mermaid? Like, have you ever seen it? Like, in real life? I don't even think that's a Barnum thing anymore. I think, like, Ripley's has one now, but everybody knows it's a hoax. Like, the Japanese are good hoaxsters. You didn't know about the Fiji mermaid? I had heard the story before, and I'd seen the, like, I think I'd seen the thing at a Ripley's, and I didn't know it was originally a Barnum thing. Okay, back to our good friend Mr. P.T. Barnum over here. A few years later, Barnum toured Europe with General Tom Thumb, a 5-year-old dwarf from Connecticut whom Barnum claimed was an 11-year-old English boy and whom he had trained to do many remarkable acts. During this tour, Barnum's name attracted such attention that Queen Victoria, that paragon of sobriety, requested a private audience with him and his talented dwarf at Buckingham Palace. The English press may have ridiculed Barnum, but Victoria was royally entertained by him and respected him ever after. So yeah, even if you're like doing something as unsavory as like exploiting the little people, which will generally make people like scoff and mock and criticize, ridicule you. Like even like the courting the attention of one can be more important than the attention of many. Interpretation. Barnum understood the fundamental truth about attracting attention. Once people's eyes are on you, you have a special legitimacy. For Barnum, creating interest meant creating a crowd. As he later wrote, every crowd has a silver lining, and crowds tend to act in conjunction. If one person stops to see your beggar man laying bricks in the street, more will do the same. They will gather like dust bunnies. Then, given a gentle push, they will enter your museum or watch your show. To create a crowd, you have to do something different and odd. Any kind of curiosity will serve the purpose, for crowds are magnetically attracted by the unusual and inexplicable. And once you have their attention, never let it go. Like the algorithm. If it veers towards other people, it does so at your expense. Barnum would ruthlessly suck attention from his competitors. No, my bad. He's sound effect soundboards, man. Knowing what a valuable commodity it is. At the beginning of your rise to the top, then, spend all your energy on attracting attention. Most important, The quality of the attention is irrelevant. The quality of the attention is irrelevant. No matter how badly his shows were reviewed or how slanderously personal were the attacks on his hoaxes, Barnum would never complain. If a newspaper critic reviled him particularly badly, in fact, he made sure to invite the man to an opening and to give him the best seat in the house. He would even write anonymous attacks on his own work just to keep his name in the papers. From Barnum's vantage, attention, whether negative or positive, was the main ingredient of his success. You've heard the phrase that there's no bad publicity. This is that. All press is good press. As long as they are talking about you, you have their attention. And if you have their attention, then you're winning. You just, if you're trying to court attention as a path to success, the the worst kind of attention is none at all. Like the cold hard nothing, that's the one you want to avoid. The worst fate in the world for a man who yearns fame, glory, and of course power is to be ignored. Imagine that line right there. Imagine that. I might have said that like 5 or 6 times already in this stream. But the fact that it's written right here, the worst fate in the world for a man who yearns fame, glory, and of course power, is to be ignored. If the courtier happens to engage in arms in some public spectacle, such as jousting, he will ensure that the horse he has is beautifully cap- caparisoned and that he himself is suitably attired, with appropriate mottos and ingenious devices to attract the eyes of onlookers in his direction as surely as the lodestone attracts iron. I'm assuming that a lodestone is a magnet. Baldestar Castigone. Keys to power. These are always my favorite part. Burning more brightly than those around you is a skill that no one is born with. Bitch, it is a talent that I've had my entire life. Don't give me that shit. Some people are just naturally drawn to it. Ooh, she called you the cold soft nothing, but let's not mix semantics, sir. Booyah! I'm equating a lot more of modern tactics to Barnum now. I mean, just understanding the way to get attention. I mean, we've been trying to spread the scandal of the sea monkey murder to get people talking about your fish to no avail. Nobody was interested in the murder of the sea monkeys. We got to come up with a new angle. Maybe you could get an angler fish, and then we can go at it from that angler. Uh, you have to learn to attract attention. I surely think that's bullshit. As surely as the lodestone attracts iron at the start of your career, you must attach your name and reputation to a quality, an image that sets you apart from other people. I have attached my name and reputation to the quality and image of an asshole. Not someone who is rude just to for the sake of being rude, but somebody who is unapologetically like I would say honest to the point of like I'm going to tell you the first thing that comes to my head. I might not be right. I might be totally off base, but I will give you like my honest opinions, my honest thoughts, and I will be extremely direct. I won't mince my words and I won't spare your feelings. So I get the moniker of asshole. But I do so in such a manner that whether you love me or hate me, you can't deny that it's probably legit. This image can be something like a characteristic style of dress or a personality quirk that amuses people and gets talked about. I mean, that's what I just said, isn't it? I mean, yeah. When I call you an ass, that's exactly what I mean. That you're unfortunately being very, very inconveniently truthful, and I just don't like the words you're saying. I know them to be true, but I don't like them. So you're an asshole for saying them, and sometimes you are. Because sometimes you do that. Sometimes you just like you say the thing, and I'm like, why'd you say the thing? I already knew the thing. I didn't need you to fucking remind me about the thing. But you did it. Yeah, did it. And that's why I love you, Juju, because you are kind of an asshole. And I respect it. I respect it a great deal. Once the image is established, you have an appearance, a place in the sky for your star. It is a common mistake to imagine that this peculiar appearance of yours should not be controversial, that to be attacked is somehow bad. Nothing could be further from the truth. To avoid being a flash in the pan and having your notoriety eclipsed by another, you must not discriminate between different types of attention. In the end, every kind will work in your favor. Barnum, we have seen, welcomed personal attacks and felt no need to defend himself. He deliberately courted the image of being a humbug. The court of Louis XIV contained many talented writers, artists, great beauties, and men and women of impeccable virtue, but no one was more talked about than the singular Duke de Lauzun. The Duke was short, almost dwarfish, and he was prone to the most insolent kinds of behavior. He slept with the king's mistress and openly insulted not only other courtiers but the king himself. Louis, however, was so beguiled by the duke's eccentricities that he could not bear his absences from the court. It was simple. The strangeness of the duke's character attracted attention. Once people were enthralled by him, they wanted him around at any cost. So even if he's a complete asshole, he's just so damn interesting and so damn entertaining that we gonna put up with him even insulting the king himself. Uh, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's how legal mindset still recognizes me because I wasn't afraid to just go all in and on attacking him, and I ended up attacking him so hard one time that I got myself a little bit banned And then I had a whole campaign to get myself unbanned from Legal Mindsets chat. And in the end, all I had to do was go talk to him about it. And I was like, oh, well, that would not have gotten me any notoriety, would it? That would not. So I went through a whole campaign and got a whole bunch of people to try to tell him to unban me. And he kept telling them all that I needed to come talk to him personally. And I was like, oh, fuck that. I didn't do shit to get banned. I shouldn't have to come ask for forgiveness. And then I came and hit him up and I was like, you know what? Let's just call it a wash, my dude. I won't do it again. But by that time, I had already had notoriety, and now he always recognizes me, and people in his chat always recognize me still to this day as the infamous chat troll, one of the favorites, Mr. Darth Hideous, even if I'm never around anymore, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm usually not. But that was just one courtship of attention. Society craves larger than life figures, people who stand above the general mediocrity. Never be afraid, then, of the qualities that set you apart and draw attention to you. Court controversy, even scandal. It is better to be attacked, even slandered, than ignored. All professions are ruled by this law, and all professionals must have a bit of the showman about them. The great scientist, Thomas Edison, knew that to raise money he had to remain in the public eye at any cost. Almost as important as the inventions themselves was how he presented them to the public and courted attention. Edison would design visually dazzling experiments to display his discoveries with electricity. He would talk of future inventions that seemed fantastic at the time, robots and machines that could photograph thought, and that he had no intention of wasting his energy on, but that made the public talk about him. He did everything he could to make sure he received more attention than his great rival Nikola Tesla. And when they say he did everything to make sure he, who may actually have been more brilliant than he was, but whose name was far less known. Yeah, and who got a whole bunch of shit stolen by Edison. In 1915, it was rumored that Edison and Tesla would be joint recipients of that year's Nobel Prize in Physics. The prize was eventually given to a pair of English physicists. Only later was it discovered that the prize committee had actually approached Edison, but he had turned them down, refusing to share the prize with Tesla. By that time, his fame was more secure than Tesla's, and he thought it better to refuse the honor than to allow his rival the attention that would have come even from sharing the prize. That's cold. That is cold. I mean, Juju, I have been told this by more than one person that people like to listen to me, that my voice has a. I can't listen to it, and I can't listen to my own voice and not want to throw something across the room. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Well, thank you. I mean, thank you all. Is that what draws all your attention? It's not my witty commentary. It's not my wonderful insight. It's I have a good voice. Surely it can't be better than the legendary Wizzy Shiznut. I mean, high bars, right? High bars. Let, let's put let's put the bar all the way up there. And now you guys are talking baking. Well, I'm glad I'm having fun discussing and trying to do my best to explain the laws of power because I cannot explain the laws of cake. Aw, well, at least you're fucking honest, you asshole. Your voice is a big draw. We appreciate your giggle too. Then your content. My oh my oh my. I know Maddie only comes to make fun of me, and I appreciate him for that. But at least something is courting your attention. But what do y'all think about the 1915 Thomas Edison turns down the Nobel Prize in Physics rather than share it with Tesla because his notoriety and fame is already so secure that he would rather not have like one of the highest honors in the world, a Nobel Prize, than to share it with Tesla because of the notoriety. Like, that's cold. That is cold. And if you know anything about Thomas Edison, that dude, that was a cold motherfucker. I mean, what's not true? The part about you only come to make fun of me? Because that's factually observable. Well, not only did he get more attention for turning it down, but the prize was given to someone else, and Tesla basically like got shut completely out of the deal. So that's pretty freaking hardcore because they were rivals, and Tesla stole a bunch of shit from, or Edison stole a bunch of shit from Tesla. One of these days, I might have to do a poll to see why everybody comes here. Because if it's my voice, that's unexpected. Anywho, if you find yourself in a lowly position that offers little opportunity for you to draw attention, an effective trick is to attack the most visible, most famous, most powerful person you can find. When Pietro Aretino, a young Roman servant boy of the early 16th century, wanted to get attention as a writer of verses, so like a poet, he decided to publish a series of satirical poems ridiculing the Pope and his affection for a pet elephant. The attack put Aretino in the public eye immediately, because I mean, you went after the Pope. A slanderous attack on a person in a position of power would have a similar effect. Remember, however, to use such tactics sparingly after you have the public's attention when the act can wear thin. So yeah, don't abuse these like super salacious behaviors. Like, okay, I got your attention. Have you heard about my YouTube channel? Once in the limelight, you must constantly renew it by adapting and varying your method of courting attention. If you don't, the public will grow tired, will take you for granted, and will move on to a newer star. The game requires constant vigilance and creativity. Pablo Picasso never allowed himself to fade into the background. If his name became too attached to a particular style, he would deliberately upset the public with a new series of paintings that went against all expectations. Better to create something ugly and disturbing, he believed, than to let viewers grow too familiar with his work. Understand, people feel superior to the person whose actions they can predict. If you show them who is in control by playing against their expectations, you both gain their respect and tighten your hold on their fleeting attention. Image, the limelight. The actor who steps into this brilliant light attains a heightened presence. All eyes are on him. The room is for only one actor at a time in the limelight's narrow beam. Or there is only room. There is room. Only room. Do whatever it takes to make yourself its focus. Make your gestures so large, amusing, and scandalous that the light stays on you while the other actors are left in the shadows. Authority. Be ostentatious and be seen. What is not seen is as though it did not exist. It was light that first caused all creation to shine forth. Display fills up many blanks, covers up deficiency, and gives everything a second life, especially when it is backed by genuine merit. Baltasar Gracian. And I do believe, oh dear goodness, we have a part two. I thought that might be the end, but we have not done the ending. Picasso, Pablo Picasso. Ah, that's funny. Cat Ninja. I mean, that's fair enough, Juju. That's fair enough. Ah, part two. Wow, I was not expecting that. Okay, part two. Create an air of mystery. In a world growing increasingly banal and familiar, what seems enigmatic instantly draws attention. Never make it too clear what you are doing or about to do. Do not show all your cards. An air of mystery heightens your presence. It also creates anticipation. Everyone will be watching you to see what happens next. Use mystery to beguile, seduce, even frighten. Mysterious. Hmm. I have been called that once before, and I mean, surprise. The mystery of the sixth law was that there was a part two. I mean, I know a really mysterious person who courts attention by being mysterious. Okay. Are you paying attention? Observance of the law. Beginning in 1905, rumors started to spread throughout Paris of a young Oriental girl who danced in a private home, wrapped in veils that she gradually discarded. A local journalist who had seen her dancing reported that a woman from the Far East had come to Europe laden with perfume and jewels to introduce some of the richness of the Oriental color and life into the satiated society of European cities. Soon everyone knew the dancer's name, Matahari. Earlier that year, in the winter, small and select audiences would gather in a salon filled with Indian statues and other relics while an orchestra played music inspired by Hindu and Japanese melodies. After keeping the audience waiting and wondering, Mata Hari would suddenly appear in a startling costume, a white cotton brassiere covered with Indian-type jewels, jeweled bands at the waist supporting a sarong that revealed as much as it concealed, bracelets up the arms. Then Mata Hari would dance, in a style no one in France had seen before, her whole body swaying as if she were in a trance. She told her excited and curious audience that her dances told stories from Indian mythology and Japanese folk tales. This says Javanese like over and over again. I am not entirely sure if that's a typo or not. I've never been to Javan. Soon the cream of Paris and ambassadors from far-off lands were competing for invitations to the salon, where it was rumored that Mata Hari was actually performing sacred dances in the nude. That's a little bit salacious. The public wanted to know more about her. She told journalists that she was actually Dutch in origin, but had grown up on the island of Java. So it is Javanese. Okay, Java. I've never heard of it. I mean, Java is coffee. Is that where coffee comes from? I doubt it. Mysterious, though. She would also talk about time spent in India and how she had learned sacred Hindu dances there, and how Indian women can shoot straight, ride horseback, and are capable of doing logarithms and talk philosophy. Yeah, the fuck right. Indian women. Shooting women. I mean, women. Come on, get out of here. By the summer of 1905, although few Parisians had actually seen Mata Hari dance, her name was on everyone's lips. As Mata Hari gave more interviews, the story of her origins kept changing. She had grown up in India. Her grandmother was the daughter of a Javanese princess. She had lived on the island of Sumatra, where she had spent her time horseback riding, gun in hand, and risking her life. No one knew anything certain about her, but journalists did not mind these changes in her biography. Like, this bitch is making it up. Hiya, Mims. Is it Mims or it's Mimsy? But I like Mims. It's gotta be Mimsy, but good to see you. Welcome. Just in time for part two. Ah, the Javanese are an Austronesian ethnic group native to the central eastern part of the Indonesian island of Java. So it's in Indonesia. Hmm. Gotcha. You just Googled that, right? Juju, you did not know that off the top of your head. Mostly because you used the word Austronesian, and that's not a word you knew before you Googled that. Because that's not a word I knew before you Googled that. Anywho, back to Matahari, shall we? They compared her to an Indian goddess, a creature from the pages of Baudelaire, where whatever their imagination wanted to see in this mysterious woman from the East. In August of 1905, Matahari performed for the first time in public. Crowds thronging to see her on opening night caused a riot. She had now become a cult figure, spawning many imitations. One reviewer wrote, Matahari personifies all the poetry of India, its mysticism, its voluptuousness, its hypnotizing charm. Another noted, if India possesses such unexpected treasures, then all Frenchmen will emigrate to the shores of the Ganges. Ganges, my bad. Soon the fame of the Matahari and her sacred Indian dances spread beyond Paris. She was invited to Berlin, Vienna, Milan. Over the next few years, she performed throughout Europe, mixed with the highest social circles, and earned an income that gave her an independence rarely enjoyed by a woman of the period. Then, near the end of World War One, she was arrested in France, tried, convicted, and finally executed as a German spy. Only during the trial did the truth come out. Matahari was not from Java or India, had not grown up in the Orient, did not have a drop of Eastern blood in her body. Her real name was Margaretha Zelle, and she came from the stolid northern province of Friesland, Holland. Interpretation. Wow, that's a twist, right? That is a twist. She was a spy. I had totally not seen that one coming. She had my attention, and I was like, oh, she was tried, convicted, and executed. German spy. Oh, go figure. But if you think about it, she went from a very, very, very obscure position. She was a nobody, right? She was just a dancer. And then she got more and more and more famous because of this legend about her, this mysterious air, this story that always changed. And people were intrigued. And like she got notoriety. She was invited all over the place. She went from like doing dances in a parlor to basically like hobnobbing with important people and being a spy, like nobody suspects because you're just this like mysterious legendary dancer. Like nobody's gonna see that coming. You are a true CIA womans of the cause. I'm curious about the interpretation. I don't know about you guys, but that that is a perfect cover because like usually with most spies they're nobodies, but this is a somebody like with such a legacy of their own that they were able to get close to very important people, a lot of very important people through the way she courted attention through mystery, all the while concealing the biggest mystery of all. Well, not all the while. She got caught. When Margaret Ethel arrived in Paris in 1904, she had half a franc in her pocket. She was one of the thousands of beautiful young girls who flocked to Paris every year, taking work as artist models, nightclub dancers, or vaudeville performers at the. I'm not going to try to pronounce that word. I don't speak Surrender Monkey. After a few years, they would inevitably be replaced by younger girls and would often end up on the streets, turning to prostitution or else returning to the town they came from, older and chastened. Zell had higher ambitions. She had no dance experience and had never performed in the theater. But as a young girl, she had traveled with her family and had witnessed local dances in Java and Sumatra. Zell clearly understood that What was important in her act was not the dance itself, or even her face or figure, but her ability to create an air of mystery about herself. The mystery she created lay not just in her dancing, or her costumes, or the stories she would tell, or her endless lies about her origin. It lay in an atmosphere enveloping everything she did. There was nothing you could say for sure about her. She was always changing, always surprising her audience with new costumes, new dances, new stories. This air of mystery left the public always wanting to know more, always wondering about her next move. Mata Hari was no more beautiful than many of the other younger girls who came to Paris. She was not a particularly good dancer. What separated her from the mass, what attracted and held the public's attention and made her famous and wealthy, was her mystery. People are enthralled by mystery because it invites constant interpretation. They never tire of it. The mysterious cannot be grasped, and what cannot be seized and consumed creates power. That was interesting. Oh, Cohagen, good to see you. We're just discussing one of my favorite laws of power because this is one of my personal laws of power. Always court attention at all costs. And me being the boisterous, loud asshole who lights up every room I enter, assuming I decide to shine the light. Courting attention is something I do almost on a natural basis. So yeah, this one was fun. This one is fun. This one's been fun, but we are at the keys to power, so that means we are getting down to the end of it. Oh, dang. 2 minutes actually. 2 minutes, Cat Ninja. And I guess we'll live at 5. So you must be on the West Coast then. If I went live at 5, because I went live at 8. Mm. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. Two of my favorite people on the interwebs, at least in these circles. Gohagen and Divinity, both Californistanis. You missed the Ninja Cat doing the. I mean, sometimes the Ninja Cat 420 alarm can be downright unreliable. And sometimes I have to like remind the Ninja Cat what time is it. But since we are at the keys to power, and we do have only a minute left, I hope everybody is prepared. Do, 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 do. Cheers, y'all. Ah, I am glad I got talked back into coming back and doing this. Finishing this series, I mean, if anything, I taught myself into it, but this is fun to do. The laws themselves. Happy 420s, y'all. If it's the 420s where you are. And if not, it's always 420, so it doesn't matter. Keys to power. Is everyone ready for this? Everyone ready for the synopsis? In the past, the world was filled with the terrifying and unknowable. Diseases, disasters, capricious despots, the mystery of death itself. What we could not understand, we reimagined as myths and spirits. Over the centuries, though, we have managed, through science and reason, to illuminate the darkness. What was mysterious and forbidding has grown familiar and comfortable. Yet this light has a price. In a world that is even more banal, that has had its mystery and myth squeezed out of it, we secretly crave enigmas, people or things that cannot be instantly interpreted, seized, and consumed. That is the power of the mysterious. It invites layers of interpretation, excites our imagination, seduces us into believing that it conceals something marvelous. The world has become so familiar and its inhabitants so predictable that what wraps itself in mystery will almost always draw the limelight to it and make us watch it. Do not imagine that to create an air of mystery, you have to be grand and awe-inspiring. Mystery that is woven into your day-to-day demeanor and is subtle has that much more power to fascinate and attract attention. Remember, people are upfront. Most people are upfront, can be read like an open book, take little care to control their words or image, and are hopelessly predictable. By simply holding back, keeping silent, occasionally uttering ambiguous phrases, deliberately appearing inconsistent, and acting odd in the subtlest of ways, you will emanate an aura of mystery. The people around you will then magnify that aura by constantly trying to interpret you. This goes back to a law that we just did, law, I believe it's for always say less than necessary. That is specifically about cultivating an air of mystery and using that to your advantage, but also not being able to be read, interpreted like an open book, and thus discarded as such. And yeah, a lot of the laws are related, a lot of the laws are contradictory. Both artists and con artists understand the vital link between being mysterious and attracting interest. Count Victor Lustig, the aristocrat of swindlers, played the game to perfection. He was always doing things that were different or seemed to make no sense. He would show up at the best hotels in a limo driven by a Japanese chauffeur. No one had ever seen a Japanese chauffeur before, so this seemed exotic and strange. Lustig would dress in the most expensive clothing, but always with something, a medal, a flower, an armband, out of place, at least in conventional terms. This was seen not as tasteless, but as odd and intriguing. In hotels he would be seen receiving telegrams at all hours, one after the other, brought to him by his Japanese chauffeur. Telegrams he would tear up with utter nonchalance. In fact, they were fakes, completely blank. He would sit alone in the dining room, reading a large and impressive-looking book, smiling at people yet remaining aloof. Within a few days, of course, the entire hotel would be abuzz with interest in this strange man. All this attention allowed Lustig to lure suckers in with ease. They would beg for his confidence and his company. Everyone wanted to be seen with this mysterious aristocrat, and in the presence of this distracting enigma, They wouldn't even notice that they were being robbed blind. Well, isn't that sweet? Oh, yeah, you got a stream coming up, don't you? Well, I was glad you could make it. You're probably going to take the BG with you. I have no idea how long this is going to take to wrap up, but if you gotta go, you gotta go. It was good to have you. Thanks for participating in the chat. No weeds. You left them outside. You can't smoke them outside. Oh, wait, it's not that kind of weeds. An air of mystery can make the mediocre appear intelligent and profound. It made Mata Hari, a woman of average appearance and intelligence, seem like a goddess, and her dancing divinely inspired. An air of mystery about an artist makes his or her artwork immediately more intriguing, a trick Marcel Duchamp played to great effect. It is all very easy to do. Say little about your work, tease and titillate with alluring, even contradictory comments, then stand back and let others try to make sense of it all. Mysterious people put others in a kind of inferior position, that of trying to figure them out. To degrees that they can control, they also elicit the fear surrounding anything uncertain or unknown. All great leaders know that an aura of mystery draws attention to them and creates an intimidating presence. Mao Zedong, for example, cleverly cultivated an enigmatic image. He had no worries about seeming inconsistent or contradicting himself. The very contradictoriousness of his actions and words meant that he always had the upper hand. No one, not even his own wife, ever felt they understood him, and therefore he seemed larger than life. This also meant that the public paid constant attention to him, ever anxious to witness his next move. Mao Zedong, that is a big one. They gone for the chairman. That's funny, Juju. Your air of mystery. If your social position prevents you from completely wrapping your actions in mystery, you must at least learn to make yourself less obvious. Every now and then, act in a way that does not mesh with other people's perception of you. This way, you keep those around you on the defensive, eliciting the kind of attention that makes you powerful. The done right, the creation of enigma can also draw the kind of attention that strikes terror into your enemy. During the Second Punic War, the great Carthaginian general known as Hannibal was wreaking havoc in his march on Rome. Hannibal was known for his cleverness and duplicity. Under his leadership, Carthage's army, although smaller than those of the Romans, had constantly outmaneuvered him. On one occasion, though, Hannibal's scouts made a horrible blunder, leading his troops into a marshy terrain with the sea at their back. The Roman army blocked the mountain passes that led inland, and its general, Fabius, was ecstatic. At last he had Hannibal trapped. Posting his best sentries on the passes, he worked on a plan to destroy Hannibal's forces. But in the middle of the night, the sentries looked down to see a mysterious sight. A huge procession of lights was heading up the mountain. Thousands and thousands of lights. If this was Hannibal's army, it had suddenly grown 100-fold. The sentries argued heatedly about what this could mean. Reinforcements from the sea? Troops that had been hidden in the area? Ghosts? No explanation made sense. As they watched, fires broke out all over the mountain, and a horrible noise drifted up to them from below, like the blowing of a million horns. Demons, they thought. The sentries, the bravest and most sensible in the Roman army, fled their posts in a panic. By the next day, Hannibal had escaped from the marshland. What was his trick? Had he really conjured up demons? Actually, what he had done was order bundles of twigs to be fastened to the horns of the thousands of oxen that traveled with his troops as beasts of burden. The twigs were then lit, giving the impression of torches of a vast army heading up the mountain. When the flames burned down to the oxen's skin, they stampeded in all directions, bellowing like mad and setting fires all over the mountainside. The key to the device's success was not the torches, the fires, or the noises in themselves, however, but the fact that Hannibal had created a puzzle that captivated the sentries' attention and gradually terrified them. From the mountaintop, there was no way to explain this bizarre sight. If the sentries could have explained it, they would have stayed at their posts. If you find yourself trapped, cornered, and on the defensive in some situation, try a simple experiment. Do something that cannot be easily explained or interpreted. Choose a simple action, but carry it out in a way that unsettles your opponent, a way with many possible interpretations, making your intentions obscure. Don't just be unpredictable, although this tactic too can be successful. We will find that out in Law 17. Like Hannibal, create a scene that cannot be read. There will seem to be no method to your madness, no rhyme or reason, no single explanation. If you do this right, you will inspire fear and trembling, and the sentries will abandon their posts. Call it the feigned madness of Hamlet tactic, for Hamlet uses it to great effect in Shakespeare's play, frightening his stepfather Claudius through the mystery of his behavior. The mysterious make, makes your forces seem larger, your power more terrifying. Wow, that is an interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure the oxen didn't like this play, but the army, they were all about it. Getting out of here. You're not trapped. Image. The dance of the veils. The veils envelop the dancer. What they reveal causes excitement. What they conceal heightens interest. The essence of mystery. Authority. If you do not declare yourself immediately, you arouse. If you do not declare immediately, you arouse expectation. Mix a little mystery with everything, and the very mystery stirs up veneration. And when you explain, be not too explicit. In this manner, you imitate the divine way when you cause men to wonder and watch. Baltasar Gracian. So there's a lot of ways to get attention. Definitely psychological warfare. I mean, it sounded like a desperate plan to me, but as far as desperate situations go, Bijou, definitely is like, I mean, that's a sheer brilliant play because you don't have a whole lot of options. You're kind of screwed, but hey, you're not trapped anymore. So kick ass. Be mysterious. Always say less than necessary. Reversal. These are always interesting to me. In the beginning of your rise to the top, you must attract attention at all costs. But as you rise higher, you must constantly adapt. Never wear the public out with the same tactic. An air of mystery works wonders for those who need to develop an aura of power and get themselves noticed, but it must seem measured and under control. Mata Hari went too far with her fabrications. Although the accusation that she was a spy was false, at the time it was a reasonable presumption because all her lies made her seem suspicious and nefarious. Ooh, oof, not a spy, but executed as one anyway. Do not let your air of mystery slowly be transformed into a reputation for deceit. Makes sense. The mystery you create must seem a game, playful and unthreatening. Recognize when it goes too far and pull back. There are times when the need for attention must be deferred, and when scandal and notoriety are the last things you want to create. The attention you attract must never offend or challenge the reputation of those above you, not, at any rate, if they are secure. You will seem not only paltry, but desperate by comparison. There is an art to knowing when to draw notice and when to withdraw. Lola Montez was one of the great practitioners of the art of attracting attention. She managed to rise from a middle-class Irish background to being the lover of Franz Liszt and then the mistress and political advisor of King Ludwig of Bavaria. In her later years, though, she lost her sense of proportion. In London in 1850, there was to be a performance of Shakespeare's Macbeth featuring the greatest actor of the time, Charles John Keane. Everyone of consequence in English society was to be there. It was rumored that even Queen Victoria and Prince Albert were to make a public appearance. The custom of the period demanded that everyone be seated before the Queen arrived, so the audience got there a little early, and when the Queen entered her royal box, they observed the convention of standing up and applauding her. The royal couple waited, then bowed, everyone sat down, and the lights were dimmed. Then suddenly all eyes turned to a box opposite Queen Victoria's. A woman appeared from the shadows, taking her seat later than the Queen. It was Lola Montez. She wore a diamond tiara on her dark hair and a long fur coat over her shoulders. People whispered in amazement. as the ermine cloak was dropped to reveal a low-necked gown of crimson velvet. By turning their heads, the audience could see the royal couple deliberately avoided looking at Lola's box. They followed Victoria's example, and for the rest of the evening Lola Montez was ignored. After that evening, no one in fashionable society dared to be seen with her. All her magnetic powers were reversed. People would flee her sight. Her future in England was finished. Never appear overly greedy for attention, then, for it signals insecurity, and insecurity drives power away. Understand that there are times when it is not in your interest to be the center of attention. When in the presence of a king or queen, for instance, or the equivalent thereof, bow and retreat to the shadows. Never compete. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Ah, yeah, definitely know your place. I mean, be aware of your surroundings when you're drawing attention, because while there is no bad attention, there can be ill-timed attention that can go very badly for you. I mean, trying to upstage the queen like that's brass. That is a ballsy move. And it backfired. It blew up in her face, and she had to basically get out of town. But the story of Lola Montez is it's a quite an interesting one because that was not the end. There is bad attention. There is bad attention, and then there's bad attention. Like you can have bad attention be good attention and good publicity, but it can go too far. And when it goes too far and it becomes a threat to like you getting any further attention, that's bad attention. That's a problem. Yep. She played the ace card and was like, I'm not going to even acknowledge this shit. And everyone else in the whole place was like, neither are we. Hmm. Well, that was kind of the point of the Matahari story is she was executed as a German spy because her constant attention seeking and deceitful mysterious nature like made everybody super suspicious of her, so they just basically concluded from all her lies that she had to be a spy and they executed her. Apparently wrongfully so. Although we don't know. She could have been a spy. So yeah, like that'd be the same thing as attracting the attention of the alphabet boys because you would have to be doing some of the wrong kind of attention getting for the wrong type of notoriety. Don't get the feds. It's life advice, folks. Just stay out of the like purview of the government. I mean, it's a not too fine of a line. Just be aware of the type of situation you're in and use your head. Some people they get too big of a head because they get too much attention, and then that's when it backfires. And it's like, well, you done crossed that line. It was a really thick line. It wasn't a fine line at all, but you done got way, way, way too far out in the weeds. You didn't know when to reel it in, and it blew up in your face. I mean, the late Adolf Hitler loved the attention he was getting right up until shit got too real, and then it was like, oh, no, I'm fucked up now. Time to leave for South America. But first, I'm gonna fake my death. And that's a story for another time. We're not gonna go on the History Channel's hunt with them. So, what did y'all think about the sixth law? Anyone take anything away from the courting attention? I mean, Juju did drop a pretty good synopsis. Like, be always seeking attention, but know when to dial it back. Because even in the dialing it back, if you are someone who constantly seeks attention and you play the all of a sudden air of mystery card, that's one of those unusual eccentric behaviors that will, in fact, draw more attention. It's quite fascinating, in my opinion. And of course, because courting attention is something that I do frequently, it's definitely one of my laws of power. And I suppose if you're going to be any kind of a YouTuber, you kind of, like, or any type of public, like, I'm trying to talk to people, you need to court attention from people. Otherwise, none of the shit works. Because you can't have a YouTube channel by yourself. You can't have a social media presence if you're not social. But that was Law 6. Coming up next, Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Oh my, how many people do we know that use that power play? So that ought to be a fun one too. I will probably, don't quote me on this, we'll probably do 7 if it rains tomorrow. I'm not going to do a law on Friday, I don't think. Like, I realize that like, if I do one of these a week, it's going to take me almost a year to get through this book. And I don't think I want to spend a whole year doing it, so I might try to do 2 or 3 a week, but I'm definitely not going to do 2 or 3 a day because anytime I have to do a stream where I have to do a lot of thinking, reading, talking, it takes way more out of me. Like, if we were just doing a chatting stream and I was just hanging out with chat, that's freaking, that's PDF pages. That's not actual pages. Like, that's still a lot of pages. So, you can kiss my ass. But anyway, look forward to getting others. Maybe if I could get Juju to do the work for me and I'll take the credit, we'll do Law 7 soon. However, I doubt I can get Juju to do the work for me. I don't have the power. So yeah, there is a possibility that I might do another one tomorrow, especially if it rains all day and I don't do the working, because I'll be less exhausted than I was tonight. But yeah, uh, curses, curses. I want to thank everybody who did stop by for the stream and contributed. I appreciate you all. And for those of you who are gonna show up in my replay gang, shout out to you guys. Leave your thoughts on Law 6 in the comments. There are a few specific people that I am generally very, very curious to hear their thoughts on this topic from. These are some of the people who definitely pushed me the hardest to go ahead and get back into doing this series, and definitely want to know their takes, but I also want to know everyone else's takes, because if you have a different opinion on courting attention than has been expressed here, I'm super curious as to what your take on it is. So leave it in the comments below. Like the video if you haven't already, because that gets me more YouTube attention. And since I've been back, I will have you know I have lost 3 subs in the last 3 days since I did my announcement on Sunday that I was coming back. So let's keep that attention coming and see if I can lose another 30 more subs by this time next week. Because I know there's a whole bunch of people who aren't even subbed to me anymore, who had alt sub to me, and all of that. Juju, if you'd be so kind as a good attention seeker and grab that link and put it in the chat, because I can't do the whole, I don't have enough subscribers to do the uh, audience raid, whatever. If you could just post the link in chat, then people could go that way if they want to. If not, I will catch you all back here. Like I said, it's probably tomorrow night. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, probably about the same time, 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock, which is unfortunately inconvenient for Gohagen, but oh yeah, yeah, check out my Rumble. I'm thinking about doing a Rumble exclusively sometime this weekend, because I do want to go ahead and test my ability to stream on Rumble and maybe just like hang out and have a little fun with my gang over there. So if you're not subscribed to my Rumble channel, please go check that out, because hopefully I'll be having my first Rumble exclusive this weekend. We will see. Just a test. And maybe we'll get into some craziness. Anywho, it was good to see you all. Thank you for coming, and I will catch you in the next stream. Take care, everybody. Peace.